11. Tonight is Kate's supper with the queens, and I shall not see her. I drink beer and watch television, but every minute or so thoughts of Sharon, my big, beautiful majorette from Alabama, come crowding into my head, and my hands begin to sweat. The air is heavy and still. It is a time to be on guard. At such times there is the temptation to behave without prudence, to try to see Sharon tonight, or even park on Esplanade and spy on her and run the risk of ruining everything. Then at last the storm breaks, a real Texas rattler. Gradually the malaise lets up, and it becomes possible to sit without perturbation and at heart's ease, hands on knees in my ladder back chair, and watch television. The marshal traps some men in an Indian hogan. The squaw has been killed, leaving a baby. In an unexpected turn of events, the killers get the upper hand and hold the marshal in a line shack as a hostage. The marshal reminds them of the baby in the hogan. This is no ordinary marshal. He's also a humanist. It ain't nothing but a stinking Indian, says one of the killers. You're wrong, says the marshal. It is a human being. In the end, he prevails upon the killers to spare the baby and even to have it baptized. The killers go out in a gruff manner and fetch the padre, a fellow who looks as much like the late H.B. Warner as it is possible for a man to look. I go to bed cozy and dry in the storm, snug as a larva in a cocoon, wrapped safe and warm in loving Christian kindness. From chair to bed and from TV to radio for one little nightcap of a program. Being a creature of habit, as regular as a monk, and taking pleasure in the homeliest repetitions, I listen every night at 10 to a program called This I Believe. Monks have their Compline, I have this I believe. On the program, hundreds of the highest-minded people in our country, thoughtful and intelligent people with mature, inquiring minds, state their personal credos. The 200 or 300 I have heard so far were without exception admirable people. I doubt if any other country or any other time in history has produced such thoughtful and high-minded people, especially the women, and especially the South. I do believe the South has produced more high-minded women of universal sentiments, than any other section of the country except possibly New England in the last century. Of my 6 living aunts, 5 are women of the loftiest theosophical pan-Brahman sentiments. The 6th is still a Presbyterian. If I had to name a single trait that all these people shared, it is their niceness. Their lives are triumphs of niceness. They like everyone with the warmest and most generous feelings. And as for themselves, it would be impossible for even a dour person not to like them. Tonight's subject is a playwright who transmits this very quality of niceness in his plays. He begins, I believe in people. I believe in tolerance and understanding between people. I believe in the uniqueness and dignity of the individual. Everyone on this, I believe, believes in the uniqueness and the dignity of the individual. I have noticed, however, that the believers are far from unique themselves, are in fact alike as peas in a pod. I believe in music. I believe in a child's smile. I believe in love. I also believe in hate. This is true. I have known a couple of these believers, humanists and lady psychologists, who come to my aunt's house. On this, I believe, they like everyone, but when it comes down to this or that particular person, I have noticed that they usually hate his guts. I did not always enjoy this, I believe. While I was living at my aunt's house, I was overtaken by a fit of perversity. But instead of writing a letter to an editor, as was custom, I recorded a tape which I submitted to Mr. Edward R. Murrow. Here are the beliefs of John Bickerson Balling, a moviegoer living in New Orleans. It began and ended. I believe in a good kick in the ass. This I believe. I soon regretted it, however, as what my grandfather would have called a smart alecky stunt, and I was relieved when the tape was returned. I have listened faithfully to this I believe ever since. I believe in freedom, the sacredness of the individual and the brotherhood of man, concludes the playwright. I believe in believing. This I believe. All my shakiness over Sharon is gone. I switch off my radio and lie in bed with a pleasant tingling sensation in the groin, a tingling for Sharon and for all my fellow Americans. 12. Sometime during the night and at the height of the storm, the telephone rings, a dreadful summons, and I find myself in the middle of the floor shaking like a leaf and wondering what is amiss. It is my aunt. What's that? The telephone crackles with static. I listen so hard I can't hear. My aunt tells me that something has happened to Kate. When Uncle Jules and Walter arrived at the hotel from the Iberia ball, Kate was not to be found. Nell Lavelle herself, a former queen, told them that Kate had left abruptly sometime before 11 o'clock. That was 3 hours ago and she had not come home. But Nell wasn't worried. You know as well as I do what she's doing, Cousin Am, she told my aunt. You remember my Christmas party at Empire when she took out up at the levee and walked all the way to La Place? That Kate. But my aunt has her doubts. Listen to this, she says in a peculiar voice. It is the dry, litigious way of speaking of closely knit families in times of trouble. One would imagine she was speaking of a stranger. Here is the last entry in her diary. Tonight we'll tell the story. Will the new freedom work? If not, no more tightropes for me. Thank you. Now you recall her tightrope. Yes. Tightrope is an expression Kate used when she was sick for the first time. When she was a child and her mother was alive, she said it used to seem to her that people laughed and talked in an uneasy and familiar way and stood on solid ground. But now it seemed that they, not just she, but everybody, had become aware of the abyss that yawned at their feet, even on the most ordinary occasions, especially on the most ordinary occasions. Thus, she would 1,000 times rather find herself in the middle of no man's land than at a family party or luncheon club. Now, I'm not really worried about her, my aunt declares briskly. There's a silence and the wire crackles. It's strange to say, my main emotion is a slight social embarrassment. I cast about for something to say. After all, the girl is 25 years old, says my aunt. That's true. Lightning strikes somewhere close, a vicious bolt. The clap comes hard upon it in the very whitening and shakes the house. Finally reached him in his hotel room in Atlanta. Who? Sam. He's flying down first thing in the morning instead of Sunday. He was quite excited. About what? He said he had the most extraordinary piece of news. He wouldn't tell me what it was. It seems that by the eerest sort of coincidence, two things happened this very day with a direct bearing on Kate. Anyhow. Yes, ma'am? I have a hunch she'll wander out your way. If she does, will you drive her home? Yes. It isn't as if Kate were another Odie Ann, says my aunt after a moment. No, it isn't. She's thinking of two things. One, an acquaintance from Feliciana named Odie Ann Aldridge who went crazy and used to break out of the state hospital in Jackson and come to New Orleans and solicit strangers on Bourbon Street. Two, she's thinking of the look in Nell Lavelle's eye, the little risible gleam, even as she reassured my aunt. I awake with a start at 3 o'clock, put on a raincoat and go outside for a breath of air. The squall line has passed over. Elysian Fields is dripping and still, but there is a commotion of winds high in the air where the cool, heavy front has shouldered up the last of the fretful ocean air. The wind veers around to the north and blows away the storm until the moon swims high, moored like a kite and darting against the fleeing shreds and ragtags of clouds. I sit in the shelter outside Mrs. Schexnayder's chain link fence. Opposite the school, it is used by those children who catch buses toward the lake. The streetlight casts a blue-black shadow across the boulevard at the Cato corner of the Elysian Fields and Bon Enfant is a vacant lot chest high in last summer's weeds. Some weeks ago, the idea came to me of buying the lot and building a service station. It is for sale, I learned, for $20,000. What with the windfall from Mr. Sartalamacchia, it becomes possible to think seriously of the notion. It is easy to visualize the little tile cube of a building with its far-flung porches, its apron of silk concrete, and revolving on high, the immaculate bivalve glowing in every inch of its pretty styrene. I have already approached the shell distributor. A taxi pulls up under the street light. Kate gets out and strides past the shelter, hands thrust deep in her pockets. Her eyes are pools of darkness. There is about her face the rapt, almost ugly look of a solitary people. When I call out to her, she comes directly over with a lack of surprise, with a dizzy, dutiful obedience, which is disquieting. Then I see that she is full of it, one of her great ideas, the sort that occur to people on long walks. What a fool I've been! She lays both hands on my arm and takes no notice of the smell of the hour. She's nowhere. She's in the realm of her idea. Do you think it is possible for a person to make a single mistake, not to do something wrong, you understand, but make a miscalculation and ruin his life? Why not? I mean, after all, couldn't a person be miserable because he got one thing wrong and never learned otherwise, because the thing he got wrong was full of such a nature that he could not be told because the telling itself got it wrong? Just as if you had landed on Mars and therefore had no way of knowing that a Martian is morally offended by a question, and so every time you asked what was wrong, it only grew worse for you? Catching sight of my sleeve, she seizes it with a curious rough gesture, like a housewife fingering goods. My stars, pajamas, she says offhandedly. Well, she searches my face in the violent shadow. I don't know. But I do know. I found out, Bings. None of you could have told me even if you wanted to. I don't even know if you know. I wait gloomily. Long ago I learned to be wary of Kate's revelations, these exalted moments when she is absolutely certain what course to take for the rest of her life are often followed by spells of the blackest depression. No, I swear I don't believe you, says Kate, peering into my face, into one eye and then the other, like a lover, and my telling you would do no good. Tell me anyhow. I am free. After 25 years, I am free. How do you know? You're not surprised? When did you find out? At 4:30 this afternoon. Yesterday afternoon. At Merle's? Yes, I was looking up at his bookshelf and I hadn't said anything for a long time. I saw his book, a book with a sort of burlap cover that always struck me unpleasantly. Yet how hard had I tried to live up to him and his book, live joyfully and as oneself, etc. There were days when I would come in as nervous as an actress, and there were moments when I succeeded in being myself, and brilliantly. Look at me, Merle, I'm doing it. So brilliantly that I think he loved me. Poor Merle. You see, there is nothing he can say. He can't tell me the secret even if he knew. Do you know what I did? After a minute or so, he asked me, "What comes to mind?" I sat up and rubbed my eyes, and then it dawned on me, but I couldn't believe it. It was too simple. My God, can a person live 25 years, a life of crucifixion, through a misunderstanding? Yes, I stood up. I had discovered that a person does not have to be this or be that or be anything, not even oneself. One is free. But even if Merle knew this and told me, there is no way in the world I could have taken his advice. How strange to think that you cannot pass along the discovery. So again Merle said, "What comes to mind?" I got up and told him goodbye. He said, "It's only 4:30. The hour's not yet over." Then he understood I was leaving. He got interested and suggested we look into the reasons. I said, "Merle, how I wish you were right. How good to think that there are reasons that if I am silent, it means I am hiding something. How happy I would be to be hiding something. And how proud I am when I do find secret reasons for you, your own favorite reasons. But what if there is nothing? That is what I have been afraid of until now, being found out to be concealing nothing at all. But now I know why I was afraid and why I needn't be. I was afraid because I felt that I must be such and such a person, even as a good person, as your joyous and creative person. I read your articles, Merle. What a discovery! One minute I am straining every nerve to be the sort of person I was expected to be, and shaking in my boots for fear I would fail, and the next minute to know with the calmest certitude that even if I could succeed and become your joyous and creative person, that it was not good enough for me, and that I had something better. I was free. Now I was saying goodbye, Merle, and I walked out as free as a bird for the first time in my life, 25 years old, healthy as a horse, rich as cream, and with the world before me. Ah, don't disapprove, Binks. Binks. You think I should go back? Oh, I will, no doubt, but I know I am right, or I would not feel so wonderful. She will not feel wonderful long. Already the sky over the chef is fading, and soon the dawn will glimmer about us like the bottom of the sea. I know very well that when the night falls away into gray distances, she will sink into herself. Even now she is overtaking herself. Already she is laboring ever so slightly at her exaltation. I take her cold hands. What do you think of this for an idea? I tell her about the service station and Mr. Sartalamacchia. We could stay on here at Mrs. Scheck-Snyder's. It is very comfortable. I may even run the station myself. You could come sit with me at night if you liked. Did you know you can net over 15,000 a year on a good station? You sweet old Binks, are you asking me to marry you? Sure. I watch her uneasily. Not a bad life, you say? It would be the best of all possible lives. She speaks in a rapture, something like my aunt. My heart sinks. It is too late. She has already overtaken herself. Don't worry about it. I won't. As enraptured and extinguished in her soul, gone as a character played by Eva Marie Saint. Leaning over, she hugs herself. What's the matter? Ooh, Kate groans. Kate herself now. I'm so afraid. I know. What am I gonna do? You mean right now? Yes. We'll go to my car, then we'll drive down to the French market and get some coffee. Then we'll go home. Is everything gonna be all right? Yes. Tell me. Say it. Everything is going to be all right.